Hello, everybody in HVAC world. So tonight, we always know you guys hear me all the time saying how important heat loads are. I talk about heat loads, superheat, subcooling, and duct sizing all the time. Airflow, airflow, airflow. But today we're going to talk about heat loads, and today I have a special guest, Marisa. Marisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. I'm a huge fan, Ty, and I'm really so honored to be on your show. So thank you so much for having me on here.
Well, just tell everybody a little about yourself. Just introduce yourself. We're going to talk about heat loads for
Absolutely.
those who are just joining in. But tell us a little about yourself, and then we'll get started in talking about heat loads.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Marissa. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Conduit Tech. Conduit Tech does system design and sales enablement software for residential HVAC professionals. So specifically, when we think about system design, one of the biggest steps in that is heat load calculations. And our goal is to enable HVAC pros to walk into a home, be able to spend a couple of minutes on site and understand what piece of equipment needs to go into that space, what additional accessories need to go into that space, and then support them in that kitchen table sale conversation. So at Conduit, the way that we're sort of serving that goal, serving that mission is by building an iPad software that enables a contractor to walk into the space, use their iPad and a little LiDAR sensor in their iPad Pro to scan over the space. We create a 3D model, we grab the orientation, we ask them a couple of questions about what the space is made of, what they can visually see in the space. And then from there, we have a pretty quick heat load calculation that we're able to perform on the space. We have a number of other ancillary calculations, understanding the ductwork, understanding the equipment selection. But the crux of what we built right now is an ACA certified manual J. So the goal is less than 10 minutes, get an ACA certified manual J, a 3D model of that home, and a 2D floor plan of the home.
Oh, that's the whole show. Okay, we're done. We'll see you guys next week.
I guess I gave it all away in the first couple minutes.
So let's roll back a little bit and welcome Mr. Smith and Mechanical Environments. Thanks you guys for showing in. Now, heat load calculations are so important. It's actually better, in my opinion, and a lot of other professionals' opinions, it's better to have a house that with a unit that's too small than too big. Because if you have a unit that's too small, you can add insulation, you can add better windows, you can add air sealing, you can do lots of things. You can even add a ductless unit to one specific room to offset that. But if you have a system that's too big, there is nothing you can do other than replace that entire system to put in a proper size. And we hear people say all the time, well, bigger is better. It's America. Yeah, strong. But if we really think about heat load calculations, a unit that's too big will not dehumidify. And dehumidification is so important. Willis Carrier, when he came up with the AC system, was to not only to cool, but to dehumidify. That dehumidification is key. And we see a lot of people now over my career that have their thermostat set lower and lower and lower. And it's not so much that people want to be colder, it's really the fact that their units are oversized and it's not dehumidifying. And that extra humidity makes people feel warmer. So now we're having to have the temperature set unreasonably low to offset the high humidity. And then as you drop the temperature lower, humidity then goes up. We end up with more humidity. And there's actually houses having to be torn down because the humidity is too high. It all goes back to the HVAC system. Somebody is selling boxes like, hey, let's just put in another system. Or maybe the homeowner's like, yeah, I just want a bigger unit. And we got to think about the ductwork. We got to think about the dehumidification of the system. And that's where heat load comes in. And we do a heat load calculation. It's not just that, hey, you need a 5-ton unit or you need a 3-ton unit. If you actually look at sizing, there's what we call a sensible load and also a latent load. So when you look at that sizing for Las Vegas versus Miami, Florida, is going to be completely different in that sizing. So when we do these heat load calculations, we need to know what our latent load is as well as the sensible load. And then we do what we call a manual S, where we size the equipment for those two loads. I see all the time where people will do what they call a like for like change out. And that just really irks me because there is no such thing as a like for like change out today. Today, we have all kinds of ECM motors, and every piece of equipment has a different dehumidification side versus sensible side. And when you add efficiency in, a lot of equipment is to get that efficiency, they focus mainly on that sensible side, and it's not dehumidifying. So when somebody says they're pulling out a 3-ton and they're going to put a like for like, there is no such thing as a like for like. So you can say, I'm going to pull out a general size and it's going to throw in another size. I like the word throw it in because that's literally what we're doing. And some people are okay with that, but they need to know ahead of time. Now, I've been doing heat load calculations for a long time and I've never enjoyed heat load calculations. I do them because they are so very important. And people say, well, so many square foot per ton. That's, oh my gosh, that's a trigger word for me because it's so wrong. So I have with me a set of plans from my great great grandfather who did ranching and HVAC and real estate and electrical and everything, anything to make a living. And these are a set of plans from a house from, I believe, in the 1950s. And if anybody knows where I can get this laminated or, preserved like they do with old maps, I would like that because it's really coming apart. But as old as these are, and I don't want to risk damages anymore, it has a heat infiltration and a heat loss calculation on it. So when we talk about heat loads, they're not new. I have books that go back to the 1920s, and they're talking about heat load calculations, how to size how much heat's coming in versus heat going out. So heat loads are not new. Now, the problem with heat load calculations, it's numbers. And for me, I struggle with numbers. Actually, when we were trying to do the show, I was trying to get everything logged in and I kept getting numbers mixed up. And Marissa will testify to this. She's like, what's wrong? I'm like, these numbers, I keep getting them backwards. So for me, I have to slow down and really look at every individual number. And for me, knowing how important the heat loads are, I get very nervous about doing heat loads because there's a lot of numbers involved. And I used to use the speed sheet, which was the fast version, not as accurate, but the fast version. And I would go out and do these heat load calculations, but it would take me a few hours to do it. So I'd get all the measurements and then I would go back home and I would do the calculation, do the manual S, do all this information. Then I would come back. Well, over time, in today's world where everything's fast, fast now, that's an issue. And as we've gone through time, there's several programs now that make things a lot more visual. And it's made things a lot easier for me, but it's still a lot of numbers. Until this last week, Conduit Tech hooked me up with their software, and I did a heat load calculation on my particular barn or house. I guess we call it. It's kind of both. And I have never enjoyed doing a heat load calculation until it was, I guess, last week when we did the onboarding. It was fun. Like you're literally walking around with an iPad. Now, let me back up. The hardest part of using this is this little right here, this little apple right here, because I'm an Android guy. I had more. It took me longer to get logged in with the Apple stuff than it did for me to do the entire heat load calculation. I was so lost with this, and they were so careful with me, like, oh, well, here, use this button. Here, click on this. And so they had to really walk me through the Apple side. So if you're already familiar with Apple, you're going to be way ahead of the game. If you're an Android person like me, turn your phone on airplane mode, relax, and go through the steps. But once I figured out how to use the iPad, using the heat load calculation was fun. I'm literally walking around the house and it's cool because it just has a camera, you're seeing everything, and it puts these little white lines in and starts filling in the boxes, and it's calculating the distance of all those spaces. And it'll literally show you where oh, look at this. You can move this around like like what? How cool is that? Like all of this stuff, it's measuring where your windows are, and over here it has like where our refrigerator and stuff is. But it didn't take into account that because it's measuring the wall space behind it, which is amazing. Like I remember using a tape measure. It was so frustrating trying to get all these measurements. And I bought this wheel with a counter on it so I could do them faster. And this just like blows all of that away. So I'm literally walking around having fun, just doing this all over the house, and it's making the room. And I didn't have to piece everything together. For somehow, I don't know how, it knew where I was and it put all the pieces together in the whole entire building. I was absolutely amazed. It did this whole entire blueprint of the house in just a few minutes, and I'd never done it before. And then I purposely left the bathroom out so that I could manually add walls to see how difficult that would be. It was just a matter of making a few clicks and I connected it all together. I mean, like I am not sponsored. I don't like get anything from this. it's just for me being a very visual person, knowing how important heat loads are, I was having a blast with this. I've already contacted several people like, "Hey, let me go do some heat loads in your house so I can try some different stuff and play with this," because it was fun. Heat loads became fun. And then when we came out to it, like I was skeptical. I'm a very, I like the numbers. So when it came out, I'm like, yeah, it's gonna say it's too big. Cause like a lot of people it says it's too big. When I did the numbers, it came out to my heat load being 9,116 BTUs. I have a 9,000 BTU window unit that's like perfectly sized for the house. It perfectly controls temperature and humidity. And when it's 107 outside, I slightly lose a couple of degrees of control, which is what it's supposed to do. So my unit I know is perfectly sized for the space, and it came out spot on. And I was like, I'm sold. I was I was so impressed. I should have recorded this episode, like me going through and doing it, because I had goosebumps because it was so exciting for me and how quick that it made it. So me not being a numbers guy, but appreciating heat loads, I was just blown away. Now, my wife is not nearly as happy about it because I'm walking through and it's like showing the whole entire house. And of course I had Conduit Tech on the other line. They're walking me through some of the stuff. And so everybody's seeing like the condition of the house, and Perla was like, "What is going on?" I'm like, "Sorry, hon. I guess I should have told you about this first, because like we literally live in a barn. We're very like we have. Oh, I can tell you, we have exactly 488 square feet. So things get a little messy when you live in a small space. Minimalist. But other than that, like it doesn't show any of that in here. So none of the stuff, none of my books being stacked up in the corner, none of that shows up on here because it's just wanting to know the dimensions of the walls and the windows. And then part of our barn house is newer than the other part. So I could go in and just modify this and I could tell it the insulation difference. And it was super easy. Like all these, it had questions that asked you, hey, what do you think about what insulation is here? When was this house generally built? And then it gave some assumptions in there and then allowed you to change it as you go through. Thought it was absolutely cool. I've never in my life would thought I'd be imagined to be excited about heat load calculators. I hate heat loads so much that I usually pay people to do them because I don't want to get it wrong. And now I'm like, I'm gonna have fun with heat load calculations. So North HVACR, uh Tersh, Tom Leck, thank you guys for being here. If you guys have questions, I know I'm rambling on because I just get excited about this stuff. But if you have questions, we have Marisa here. She is the expert in this. She knows everything inside and out about this app. And when I spoke to her several years ago, they were looking for a way to help technicians. And I was, I get these requests a lot, and I tell people straight up, hey, here's what the tech side sees, here's what the field side needs, and I just tell people the truth as I see it. And they came out with this, and thought it was awesome. I absolutely blown away.
Well, we were so grateful. I think this was like 4 years ago now when you took our call when we were just students. Ty, it was really kind of you, and you taught us a lot. We've been grateful. A lot of people have given us a lot of support as we've figured out how can we build something that is going to be useful. So thank you for the time that you gave us.
Well, thanks for this, because this is
Absolutely.
this is
I'm
what I needed.
your enthusiasm is it's warming my heart so much. This is great to see. This is awesome.
So the second part of this, right? So we got a heat load calculation, which makes it easy and accurate. We're only halfway there. We know that we have a lot of people out there, and even people that mean well, people that are really good technicians that don't understand the importance of sizing, people that just want to go in and give bids. We know that there's a lot of big companies out there just want to move boxes. And we know there's a lot of salespeople out there that just, hey, just whatever, get that sales done, and they're not going to do a heat load calculation. So if we look at the next side of this, this has it to where I can make a report and I can send this to the homeowner, and it has all the information in here. And then I can even add in educational material about why it's important not to oversize the house, or what LIDAR is, or different ways of, like, it even has in here about how to reduce the infiltration. So you can even add in blower door testing, and then what to do to change that so you can make the house more efficient. So there's things that help communicate with the customer, and then you can email all this directly to your customer. So here's what's cool. Somebody else comes in like, yeah, you need a 4-ton, and you can come in and quickly do all of the math and all the numbers, but it's in an actual report that the homeowner has. Like they can look at this and actually see. I'm trying to keep it down. I want everybody knowing where I live, but it has a report where they can see all this information and all of this data, and it's ACCA, which is a huge one. So it's not like, somebody can enter. It's still important to get the numbers right, but because the homeowner has this information, now they can see the difference between what you're offering and somebody else is offering. And for the larger companies, we know that sales, is a big part of what we do. And I won't even get on that separate entire rant, but here's a way that you can have a salesperson that can get a more accurate reading quickly and easily, and it's interactive with the customer. Like, I am just blown away by this. This is super awesome. So I missed some of the comments. Never seen a KCC unit. What do they manufacture? Not sure. KCC. It's just it was a super cheap old window Douglas unit. Looks like a train. It's on an outdoor. They make specifically for indoor agriculture. Oh, so side conversations. I didn't. Hard to keep up with everybody. So, Marisa, I know I left out a lot of stuff, but just of that introduction part of it, what are some of the big things that I left out?
Oh gosh, I mean, you covered a lot. I think that when we're onboarding people to the tool, one thing that we do talk a lot about is the scanning process. So, a big part of Conduit is just practicing scanning a room. And one thing that I think is both like really exciting about the tool and part of the homeowner engagement process, or potential for this to be a homeowner engagement process, is because the scanning can be so simple, right? You walk into a room, you use your iPad to go above, all around the room, you hit the corners of the room, you grab that 3D model of the space. One thing that I just find really exciting, honestly, is this is a load calc tool. People can use this on their own. What we've seen a lot of our customers doing actually is putting their iPads in these heavy duty cases and then actually handing it to the homeowner. So, the same way that people go about, maybe engaging the homeowner with the tape measure, we've seen a lot of people do the same kind of thing or have that same vibe with like, let me engage the homeowner and have them scan their house, and actually go through this with them together and show them this really cool technology that my firm is investing in to get to a really good, accurate load calculation for their space. So there is a really strong, I think, sales engagement aspect to Conduit as well. And then Ty, you just mentioned I just saw you showing on the screen, we also have an equipment visualization tool. So if you wanted to show, this is what this mini split is going to look like on your wall, right? We can put an augmented reality model on the wall. It's not a picture, it's like a 3D model in space. So the homeowner can take that iPad, sort of look at it on the wall and see like, okay, this is how far this mini split protrudes. This is what it's going to look like. We also show outdoor equipment. Again, not just pictures, but full like 3D models in space. We're using the augmented reality on the iPad to project that out into space. And we've seen that be a very powerful sales tool, right? I see, Ty, you're showing up. There's one of our homeowner education diagrams, which explains how dehumidification works and how water condenses on cold refrigerant coils, kind of like water condenses on a soda can. That's one of my favorite sections, actually, because we were able to use a lot of the knowledge of the HVAC trainers who have been giving us feedback at Conduit. And a lot of people gave us these incredible analogies. And then we worked with this amazing illustrator to put those into the tool. And as we have our customers giving us feedback on what they want in the tool, we make more of these. So there's a really strong connection between what we're hearing is needed in the field, the trainers and educators in the HVAC world who are giving us information about how to put that into the tool, and then actually our team getting it in there. Right. So I think this one is showing why humidity is important, and it shows sort of degradation to the building. You mentioned, Ty, like buildings are having to be knocked down. If the humidity is so bad, the damage is so bad, that building actually might not last. It might have sick building syndrome. And then there's also a couple of images of people actually getting sick or feeling really uncomfortable because their heat or their sweat is not evaporating. So yeah,
And
there's
so
some.
and you can pick and choose how much you want your homeowner to see. You can overload them with information, so you don't just want to put everything in there, but you can choose specifically what's going to be important to them. And now it's coming from a third party. It's not just you saying, and we know we're very technical in the trade, and some of us don't communicate very well. I've had to learn communication over the years, but we have this piece of equipment that we need. We know that we're going to do a better job than somebody else. But now how do we talk to that homeowner about why it's important not to put in a bigger unit? we're going to put in a smaller system. Now they're immediately going to be freaked out. Why a smaller system? Hey, we can go through here and add those educational materials to help them understand.
Mhm.
I got humidity issues. I believe envelope problems. Envelope problems are huge, and that's what's cool about this is also, and I'm big on air sealing and blower door testing, and so they have home performance upgrades where you can actually add in air sealing, and you can it says current sensible cooling loads, and then if you add some upgrades, what you can do, what you can get your difference down to, and how it would change those loads, so you can add that into the quotes. So instead of saying, yeah, you need another 3-ton unit, we could say, hey, right now you need a 3-ton unit, but if we did some air sealing and we did these other problems, hey, we could get you down to a 2-ton unit, and you're going to be more comfortable, less latent load. So there's I mean, just a lot of, this isn't new. The science of everything I'm talking about has been here forever. What's new is how quickly you can get it with the LiDAR and how this takes that communication information and shares it with the homeowner. So I'm not having to explain all of these details and hoping I get it right. They've done already testing with this to see how to make a picture worth 1,000 words. Because the homeowner's not going to sit and read everything about that, but they can see a house and they can see, well, that looks like mold and there's water coming out. And then they can go into it and learn more detail, and they can get as much or as little detail as they want. And it's just a tool to help connect you with that homeowner. Because, like, we all know there's just so many cool stuff in HVAC. And then the homeowner is just like, I just want cooling. But they really want comfort. And that comes from temperature and humidity, which comes back to heat load calculations. And there's many ways. Like, I don't care what you guys use, get heat load calculations, do that job properly. What I like is the fact that this is something that's visual, saves me time, and communicates with my homeowner so that after I'm doing all this work, I don't have to then try to remember that I covered every particular thing that I need. So I am ecstatic about it. Like, I am super, super impressed. There's not like a lot of company products out there that just make me excited like this one did.
Oh,
And you're gonna have to pay for it because there's a lot of research and development, 4 or 5 years worth of research and development, getting this right, working with the ACCA, working with the Apple apps with the lidar, doing testing, making sure all of the numbers is right, and then constantly updating. Like, they're updating these things all the time, so it does take money to keep that to happen. So for you have to decide, is this going to be beneficial to my business? It is awesome. Like, I can't deny that. Now for you have to say, is this something I can implement into my company? How I can make money with that? And that's a conversation between you and Marisa or any of the Conduit Tech to decide if that's right for you. And they'll tell you that, hey, maybe this isn't right for you. I have a friend of mine, Michael, he's very much a numbers mind, and he uses an app. And for him, he can put those numbers in so fast. For him, he has a system that works really well. I'm like, that's awesome. It takes me like all day long to do it that way. So for me, this is freaking incredible.
yeah, I think Ty, that's a great point. It's definitely a partnership when a company is onboarding to Conduit, when a company decides to make the decision to purchase from Conduit, we really see that as, okay, now we're partners and we're here to get you the ROI that you are promised when you buy the Conduit tool. Let's make sure this is something that saves you time, increases the consistency in your homeowner process, and ultimately that yields higher sales conversion and higher average tickets. How can we get there together? That's something that we take really seriously when somebody makes the fantastic decision to work with our company. We really do view it as a partnership. And in some of our early ROI studies, we've seen some really, really good results coming off of those numbers, like on the order of 50x the cost of Conduit, which has been fantastic. It really comes down to showing up in the home. In that specific case, the cases that we have with those early partners, it comes down to showing up in the home with a tool that those users are really confident in, with a tool that enables them to really build value on site with math and with numbers behind them.
And I just thought, I could just put this app on my phone and start using it. And then once I started working with them and realizing, hey, we need to make sure that we have an actual tablet because it's made to communicate better, and then making sure it has the lidar. And then there's still training that goes on. I've done a lot of heat load calculations, so once I understood how to use the little Apple part of it, that was my biggest struggle. Then for me, it was pretty simple going through it because it's very visual connecting, and I already understood heat load calculations. Now, if you aren't very familiar with heat load calculations, that is okay. They are prepared to help train you through that. And when you go through this process, it's going to ask you a lot of questions. And at first, some of the stuff you may be like, hey, I'm not ready for that. And then you can always add stuff in later as you go. But what's cool about it is it's has the best of both worlds. So for somebody like me who understands a lot of these numbers, I can go through and fine tune it. Like I literally added in the shading of our house on here and the insulation under the floor in one part of the house where the other part didn't have it, the difference in insulation in the walls, the different insulation between each of the windows. So I added specific details to all of that. And somebody else, maybe they just want a generalization, and it actually will pull up the age of that house and it will put in a lot of those general numbers for you to get you started. And so I think it's pretty cool how it has like that best of both worlds. You can go as deep as you want, or you can get in basic. But what's cool about it is like there was somebody sitting there with me going through how to do this. So as I'm having questions about it, they're there to answer them. And I think that's something that you don't see with a lot of technology. Like, hey, here's an app, bye. And they were right there with me. And anytime I have a question, I can reach out and like, hey, how do I do this? They're like right there to answer those questions. And that's where you talk about a teamwork between companies working with people to solve problems, just like we work with home. We don't just give homeowners prices. Like we want to be sure we solve the whole problem, be the professionals. And that's what I like about this. It's not just technology, it's people working with industry professionals to make sure that we can solve problems.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's my favorite part of my day is when I'm talking to customers. I do a lot of onboardings and it's a really fun part of the day because you get to see what's going really well for somebody. Where are they maybe getting stuck? How can I help teach them about this thing? How can I help pass the feedback back to my team if we need to make something easier? There's a constant iteration process between what we're seeing in the field and then what we actually build on our team. And I think that that is just the kind of the synergies, the marriage that happens when you have really fantastic customers, a really fantastic market, which we have in residential HVAC, and then a team like our team that takes that really seriously. We want to listen to that feedback. We want to hear. So I love it. I love doing onboardings. If you work with Conduit, there's a pretty good chance I might be the person who's onboarding you, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. I hope you will too.
So this is funny about No Wonder because it's Apple based. So yeah, I'm an Android. My wife, Perla, she loves Apple. So I was impressed. Like the hardest thing was trying to figure out how to work volume, work the apps. A lot of stuff is different, but the program itself was like super, super awesome. So,
Awesome.
and the reason it has to be the Apple is because they have the LiDAR in here, and the Android does not have it.
Right.
And also, you do need for the display for this to be larger so that you can actually see and present all that information. Because once you squeeze all that down to a little screen, it doesn't have that same effect. And so being able to see this, all these dimensions, all this 3D stuff, it just works so much better. Because at first you're like, oh, you're gonna need an iPad Pro. And I'm like, maybe I could figure out like maybe there's an adapter I can get for this. Like my mind is already thinking of other solutions,
Yeah.
and I'm so glad that I went with the iPad because it really does make things a lot better. So super impressed with that. And again, like I'm not here to sell anything. It's something to consider. If this is something that you're considering, like I would, it's worth it to look into it. And regardless, do the heat load calculations. I mean, that's what's most important.
I saw a great question actually in the chat about the data that our application is pulling in. So if the homeowner doesn't know the installation value, which as I'm sure a lot of people on this call know, most homeowners aren't going to know the installation values of their home. So what we're doing is we are based off of the home geography, based off of the home age, and then we ask between like 6 and 7 questions when you start a job. So we're asking you what type of floor is in that house. Do you think the windows are recent replacement windows? Do you think can you verify what the ceiling insulation level is? We're asking a couple of questions, not an overwhelming number, but based off of that, we actually predict what we think the insulating value is for the walls, windows, doors, ceilings, and floors. Now, from there, as you mentioned, Ty, you can customize it any way you want, but Conduit's going to, based off those initial questions, predict what we think makes the most sense for that house. And we do see that that works really well for a lot of users. A lot of users are not going to be taking the time to be as detailed as you were in your house, Ty. So that's totally fine. A lot of people want to get the job up and running, answer those 6, 7 questions, see what the result is. And if something looks off, then they'll go back and double check, okay, well, what's the insulating value of XYZ? So there is a process, there's sometimes an iterative process, but the data that we're pulling in is simply property data and then a couple of questions that our professional contractors are answering for us.
So I just gone over, oops, I changed the screen. Now I'm lost. The
Yeah.
homeowner report, but we
Mhm.
have other reports. We have a manual J report, design CFM report, equipment sizing report. So if we just go to the manual J report, here's your official manual J. So if you have stuff you have to submit, that's where all that is. So this isn't the homeowner friendly because it has all of your straight data. But if you're going to submit anything, anything with the city, this is where all of that comes in. So it's got all of that as well. And then CFM designing. So if we know once we size the system, we're going to have the CFM, so we can change all that in here, has all that information for us, so we can do the ductwork we need. And then equipment sizing report. So this is where we can go how much sensible and latent heat we're going to need. So this isn't for the homeowner side. This is going to be for any submittals that you have for your equipment selection, all the other stuff that goes in. So it's pretty cool. They've thought about not just the technician making it easier, not just the homeowner making it visually for the cells, but also for the ACCA and the submittals and any of the city stuff you have to submit this information to or any official documents. It has that as well. So I mean, like I keep seeing new stuff on this app every time that I play with it. So, like I said, I've never been excited about doing heat load calculations before. It's just never been. I've always dreaded it. It's like I know I got to do this, but I always dreaded it. And now I'm like, oh, I want to go play with this house. Let me go do this house. I know this house is different. Let me go play with it. So, I think if
Well,
you have somebody like me who is not numbers driven, liking doing heat loads, making it fun, then I think it can benefit a lot of people out there.
I think that's really so. My co founder and I, Shelby, my co founder, we started researching this idea over 4 years ago. And we actually just spent a year and a half doing ride alongs and talking to as many people, Ty yourself included, who would talk to us to teach us about the field. And one of the things that was just so apparent is that the people who are doing a lot of this work of going into a house and doing load calculation, they're spending so much time even before they can get to the sales conversation. And then the homeowner doesn't know what the heck is going on, right? So they're not able to appropriately value the high quality of work that went into that estimate. And that was really where we wanted to say, wait, like if people are doing that work, they should be compensated for it. It should come across in their sales conversion. It should come across in their average ticket. And that was a huge underpinning of why we did choose to make this an iPad application, why we did choose to make this very visual and very kind of homeowner focused as well, is because that quality of work, it's amazing. It's amazing to me, frankly, what goes into an on-site sales process, and just it's rocket science. The number of things that an HVAC professional has to keep in mind when they are selling something on site to a homeowner or going back to their office and putting together a proposal. So we wanted to say all of the high quality work that goes into system design, let's make it part of the sale. And let's make sure that that homeowner knows the craftsmanship and the expertise that went into that quote.
And he has a great point right here is, yeah, you definitely want a case and a screen protector. I've got one on order that fits in my hand, it holds in my hands, and they have another one with a strap on it. And I had like six of them in the shopping cart, and I was trying to decide which one I wanted, and I was trying to make a decision on it, and HG kicked in. I'm doing 12 other things, and then before the show today, I thought I forgot to order, I forgot to order the case that goes with it. But yes, definitely needs a screen protector and a case that goes with that, because you want to make sure that you don't accidentally drop that and then be out for the day. So having a case is absolutely important, just like it is with my phone. I drop this thing all the time, constantly. So screen protection is important. And it's cool to think like how many apps I use on my phone now, like Measure Quick and all these other apps that make my job a whole lot easier, and I can communicate with the customer better. And this is just another one of those tools. I've always embrace the technology. I mean, we know that we have pressures that are worthless. We convert it to a saturated temperature, and then apps like Measure Quick, make that easier. There's so many apps that I use. The HVAC school app has lots of calculations, and then here is an app that's not just an app. It's like, hey, you put it on and you're done. It's actually an app with people behind it, and I'm always supporting not just our trade, but also the people in our trade. And so I love it that Marisa and Shelby are actually wanting to support the trade, and they're here to answer questions and and trying to make improvements to make things better. So that's why we're here today, because the importance of heat load calculations, options that may or may not work for you and your business to make things easier, and introducing you to some people, some good people that that have really worked hard to develop something. So even if this isn't right for you right now, just being aware of this and somebody else, this may really help them. Or later, when you have your own company, your own business, and you're thinking, man, you're like me, it's like, oh, I really hate doing these heat load calculations. Um, it's absolutely worth it, in my opinion. I was really impressed with it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking a chance and trying it out. It's great to get you on the platform.
I really appreciate it. So what questions do you guys have? Didn't see a lot of questions on the app. So we have Marissa here, and she knows everything about it. People will be asking me later, and we'll be like, I don't know. I'll have to ask Marissa or Shelby, but they are really incredible. You'll see them a lot of the trade shows. They're out talking with people, and it's not just they just sat behind a desk and developed this stuff. They've been out in the field, in with contractors, riding with technicians, seeing what they need. So there's been a lot of work that goes into it. I know some of the people that develop these apps, even though they came out good, they're just disconnected, and I think that they have worked really, really hard to make sure they're connected with what's needed in the field. And so super appreciation for that. We had a question here, scanner tips.
Yeah, I can definitely take a stab at that. So I think if you're referring to how do you scan with the iPad, is that right?
I'm guessing so.
I'll take a
For
stab at
me, it
that.
was super easy. Yeah, go for it.
So it is a pretty quick learning process. There is like any, physical tool, there is some degree of muscle memory. And so what I would say is practice in your own home, practice in your own office, but you want to think about like hitting the corners of the space. So for all four walls, all four corners of the walls that you see, you want to go up to the top, down to the bottom, over to the other corner, and then up to the top again, and repeat that for all the walls in the room. And you're going to get that room really, really fast. I was doing a bunch of onboardings in this room that I'm in right now, and I was able to scan this room like 20 times, and each time it was like 10 seconds, right? So if you copy that out across an entire home, you really just want to think about 10 seconds in roughly each room up to all of the corners of the room. And the reason that that's important is because we are using a LiDAR sensor. It's basically grabbing data and distances about everything in that home. And so the corners are really where most of the data is. We need to figure out like what's the boundary of the space. Once we have that boundary, we can fill it in.
And when I did mine, it was if there was something you missed, or if I moved too fast, which really it's very quick, it makes a white line across everything that's been calculated. So you know what is and isn't done. So if you ever used now, I wanted to set this up where we could do one live, and I just couldn't get it all done in time. But if you ever used like one of those infrared imaging cameras, you can look and it shows you the image, what you're looking at, and then it puts all the temperatures and heat sources behind it. And this works that same way. So when you're using this, it's showing you the full image of the camera, but then also it's overlaying the white lines of where all the walls are as you go. So if you're missing something, it tells you really quickly, like, hey, I don't have that. I just go back and it recaptures it. And I think it's pretty cool because I went back several times because I hadn't, I'm not familiar with it. And it just calculated all. So I went forward, backwards, up, down, then back up again. I was like, hey, I already got that information. It didn't mess anything up. And then as I walked around the house and added, like I made like a complete U-turn, and we got the closet, and it knew, I don't know how, but it knew exactly where to put it.
Yeah.
So I thought it was going to take some time to get the scanning down. Super easy. And it was like, oh, cool, look at this, look at that, look at this. And it was building the whole thing in 3D as you go through it. And then you can label everything. I could label it like bedroom one or kitchen or whatever. You can label each of the rooms closet. So it's actually, you can go back and look at that when you get to the data side where all this information is. So it's pretty cool. Hey, Jacob, thanks for stopping by and joining the show. So the, the other question we had is, how long does it take for an average house?
Yeah, absolutely. So the average time to use Conduit in an average house, well, in any house, the average time of all Conduit projects is 9 minutes. So it's a pretty quick process on site. 95% of our projects are less than 30 minutes. So even if it's a really big, complicated house, there's some complexity to that load calc, we still see it's typically a pretty fast process. And that 30 minutes includes time spent on site and then also time spent offsite tweaking the load if people wanted to go back in and change anything. So you can think average 9 minutes. It can go up higher if it is a really complicated house, but that scanning process is typically that's going to be like 5 minutes for an average size house. So we do this, or we designed this to be done during the home walkthrough with that homeowner. So as you're going room to room, you can stop in each room, scan it, and then move on to the next room, ask some questions, stop in that room, scan it. And as you mentioned, Ty, we really love ride-alongs at our company. This is really important. We try to get as many teammates as possible out into the field so we can learn about the jobs of the people that we're building our software for. And on those ride-alongs, that's really where we saw how important it is to design this so it happens in the home walkthrough process. So it can be done during that process, and it's not an additional step that you go through the home, you do your own assessment of the space, and then you have to use Conduit. No, we really want it to be a marriage within the sales process right now.
So to give you an idea, my house is small. It's like less than 500 square foot. Never using this app ever before. And I'm big on information. I was entering in specifically the walls, all the different windows, the insulation into two halves. And then I added a wall manually. Like I was going, to the extreme. I did it in 15 minutes and I'd never used it before. So everybody's going to be different for the results and how much the more data you put in, of course, the more accurate it's going to be, number in, number out. But 15 minutes and I'd never used it before. And it came on spot on with what I need. So yeah, I was impressed. Like I was a skeptic all the way through. I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll use this. And then when it came out being exactly what my unit was, knowing that unit precisely controls exactly right, and it was right on the money, I was like, wow, yep, I'm definitely sold. Michael, if you want to join in on the show, just let me know. If you have any other questions too. And Michael, I don't know if you were here earlier. We were talking about air infiltration, blower door testing. You can enter that information, and it also has options on there of how to add that to the homeowner, so they can see the difference of what it would make if you did air sealing and things like that. So that was like pretty cool.
Yeah, we have a lot of different options in the tool of we kind of like to think about it as arrows in your quiver. So if you're a salesperson, you're designing that sales process for that homeowner based on what you know they need, based on their emotional cues, their physical cues, whatever it is. You might need in one home to talk about air sealing. You might need another home to go deeper on homeowner education. So we think about these different modules of the tool as just arrows in the quiver of the salesperson, right? They can choose to pull one out if they need to, but they have a lot of options within Conduit of just supporting sales materials that really support what the value that they're trying to build on site.
And before, when I did all the stuff, I had to go and look up the ACCA, the local data, and it has design conditions, and it
Mhm.
already uses information of where you are. And so when I pull up design conditions, it already had calculated that. It already pulls up all that information. There's so much information, it just takes forever, having to like look it up, entering into design conditions, and it has it. And some specific areas they want a set of numbers. I think there was some like Ohio or some municipality that wanted different numbers, design conditions, and you can go through and manually change that. So if you wanted to set it up instead of being a 75-degree design, you could set it up to be a 72 or a 70, and it's going to calculate for that. So I could literally go through and, hey, if you kept your house at 75 degrees versus if you keep it at 70 degrees, here's how it's going to affect the sizing without me having to manually go through and do all that math again. Like it's right here on the app, and you could change relative humidity, indoor design. You could change everything on here. Even if you're just teaching heat load calculations, you could do the same house. You can go into design conditions and be like, all right, this exact same house in Miami versus Nevada versus Texas versus Ohio. And Ohio has really great parking. But you can go through and see what that exact same house would be in its heat load calculations and all across the country. And it's a great way to really show to be like, hey, sizing is important. So I really look forward to being able to see this in more schools too, because it's a great way to be able to communicate with students without being scared. Like students are already used to using all of this stuff. So it's something that can really help communicate with them. So the next question is, are you guys planning on doing anything with the commercial application in the future?
Such a great question. Right now, we are not. I will never say never. But we just realized there's so much that we need to do to support residential HVAC pros. And we're honestly so in love with the market and the customers that we have right now. We want to make sure we really cover off on the feedback they've given us. We cover off on that use case. So right now, our team is really hyper focused on residential HVAC. In the future, we want this company to exist for many, many, many decades. So yes, absolutely, I could see that in the future. But right now, we're just focused residential.
Now, what if somebody was building a house and they had, say, the blueprints out, but they didn't have where you couldn't scan it? Could you still use the app? Could you enter in everything manually off of that?
It's not the easiest. It's not really not built for that use case. It's definitely better for replacement jobs. The house exists, you can scan it. We have remarkably, you build a piece of software and then a bunch of you sell it to hundreds of people, and it turns out a bunch of people are going to use it in ways you didn't expect. We have seen people go through and draw, you can draw on the 3D model and actually build walls and build homes there. We've seen some users go through that and build entire structures. So they take the floor plans and put them into Conduit manually. It is very time consuming. So I wouldn't personally recommend, I wouldn't personally do it. But that is something that some people have done. But there is definitely better softwares out there for if you're doing a lot of new build. I wouldn't say Conduit is built for you just yet. That's something that we are not yet optimized for, but in the future do definitely want to cover off on.
And see, that's something I love is the honesty. It's like, hey, look, that's not where our thing is for. There's other apps that already do that. I so admire that, and especially in today's time. So, do you have any other like stories, success stories, or anything that's how this app's been used other than just me personally playing with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of my favorite experiences, honestly, are when we do onboard a customer who's never done a load calc before. We were onboarding a couple of customers last week who actually came from roofing, so they were hired to be HVAC salespeople. They didn't know that much about HVAC, and they were just coming up to speed. So we just met them in the process of them being trained to really enter this field. And what was so cool was being able to really go deep on the software, and it's laid out in a way that we think makes sense to learn load calculations. And so we, in those onboarding sessions, in just a couple of hours, actually in just 2 hours, we're able to get to a place where somebody has not done load calculations to now they're doing load calculations regularly every week. So I think that's personally what I find super fulfilling frankly, to be in this job. I really enjoy that. I will also say, if you are an educator, for anybody who's watching, if you're an educator, reach out to us and we can hook you up with an educator license, because we really enjoy that part of this world. But then the next thing is when we see people who are really trying to grow their businesses, right? And they really are thinking about, I'm more of a numbers science person. How do I bring that out in my sales process? And this can fit into that. So it's been pretty common that we will onboard people to the software, and then a week later we get a text and someone says, I just sold, a $40,000 job, or I just sold $100,000 job. And I was able to do that because I was using Conduit to say what should go into this house and to show the different pieces of equipment. And we've had a couple of those really extreme sales, which just blows my mind, but really extreme because somebody was able to go in and really show up as an expert and differentiate themselves from other people who are walking into that same home. So I think those are some of the two success stories that we really see. There's a bunch of other, we actually, in our team, we use Slack to communicate. And we have what we call our joy channel. So anytime anybody on the team is talking to somebody on customer support or talking to somebody on onboarding, or we get a text, we just post them for the entire team to see. And it's a super active channel. We're constantly getting success stories back from our customers, which is, it really is what makes this job the best job I've ever had. I really enjoy it.
That is awesome. I love HVAC, so I love it when people love their job. Uh, And that's the great thing is so many people that are really good at putting in equipment and doing stuff, they're not the greatest at, selling stuff or presenting it to the customer. So this is a great tool to help that better quality person be able to sell. Because we know that some people are really good at sales and they know nothing about the quality or what they're putting in. So this gives you the tools. Like I wish I would have had this back in my day, because that would have been something I could have really, really used. We had some questions about ductwork. I think it was up here. Let's see if I can
Right.
find it.
Right. Yeah. So we don't do duct layouts right now. What we do is we take the load calculation, and then if you input your blower rating, we can basically calculate the design CFMs by room. So you use Conduit to get a room by room load calc, and then from there we'll tell you this room needs 469 CFM. So this room needs 113 CFM. So we'll break it apart, and actually we just released something today. So this might not be something you've seen, Ty, where now we actually just project on the 2D floor plan what's the square footage of that room and what is the CFM requirement for that room. So that's what we
Awesome.
do right now. And we've gotten a ton of questions from our user base about further supporting on duct design, for making that process easier, bringing it into the field. So I would say that keep your eyes open, because that's something that we are thinking a lot about. We're doing a lot of research. So if you have specific questions, or you're thinking like, this would be really great if I could do this in the field, reach out to me. I put my email in the chat, but my email is Marisa, Marisa, at getconduit.com. So reach out to me. We will definitely take your feedback into account. But yeah, ducts are, I mean, everybody on this call know way more than me. Ducts are super critical. So we're thinking a lot about a conduit beyond just the CFMs room by room. How can we support more there?
Very cool. And so there was Michael said that Tim the Stasio loves this app, and he's a very hard person to impress. So that is a plus one bonus on that one. So,
Yeah.
and another instructor's here saying they wanted to use that in their school, their high school. I think that would be great. Like I say, teaching heat load calculations in school was always difficult because it's usually a long time before somebody's able to actually use that information. And then you're talking to students about hands-on stuff and you're just working through numbers. And if you have something like this where you can go to the class and they're able to actually scan rooms and scan stuff out and get that numbers quickly, that's another really great application for graduates to then be into doing heat load calculations without having to have years and years and years of all this work. It took me years to be able to figure out how to do a heat load calculation properly. Like I knew the shortcuts, and then I had less shortcuts and less shortcuts, and then I got to where I was finally less wrong. But this, I tell you, for me, this is like a real game changer. Like I don't do a lot of heat load calculations anymore, but I am super impressed.
Thank you so much, Ty. There's a great question here, the difference between our product and using the old method by hand. I would say that there's two main things that come to mind for me. Number one is efficiency. So being able to do this in the field, being able to get to an answer. I mentioned this earlier, but the average time for a conduit project is 9 minutes, and that can happen on site. So number one is efficiency. And then number two is the ability to really use load calculation as a sales tool, as a way to stand out. So because it does happen on site, because it is super visual, and it is, in a format and in a medium where you can actually show this to the homeowner, this is just one way to show, basically to show off. This is one way to show the expertise, the craftsmanship that goes into that job. That's really why we've designed Conduit to be pretty homeowner facing as well. So I'd say it's those two things: efficiency and sales value, building value on site.
I can't do this backwards. So yeah, if you're talking about that image, it has what the homeowner sees and needs. It has the general two-dimensional layout, and then it has all the other data. Then you can add in pictures. Like if we added a ductless unit, here's what it would look like. It puts that 3D overlay in it so they can visualize what it's going to be. And I'm like, hey, I like that'll be okay. I can deal with that. Or nope, I don't like that at all. I want something else. And then you can add in homeowner information. So I can add in specifically about latent heat. I can add this to that so they can get that information. I can add in about this one is dehumidification. I can add those steps in there so them to be able to communicate with that homeowner directly. So yeah, I think accuracy, time, and then presentation with communication with that homeowner. Temperature is measured in units. Oh no, that's so. Boom. All right, you guys have any other questions? I'll give you a little bit of time to ask away, and I can't think of anything else. I mean, there's so much that this does, so much work that went into designing this and also maintaining it, working with people, getting everybody ready to go. And if you have questions, be sure and reach out. They will help you any way that they can. And if it's not right for you, that's okay. They'll let you know. They'll tell you. Say, hey, look, we don't do that. There's other options for that. And I think that honesty is awesome. And that's why we're here today. We're giving options for people. And like I said, a friend of mine, Michael House, he does a different way, and he's very numbers driven, and he can do it fast that way. And that's great for me, being a very visual person, struggle with getting numbers right. For me, this is the win. But there's Marissa's email right there. You can reach out if you have any questions. And again, this is not a paid promotion. There's no connection here financially. I do have the free trial version, so I'm not having to pay for the subscription. So I will, be what do you call it? Clear about that there. But no, that this is I'm only promoting because I believe in it. I believe in the people that do this, and it's another option that may help people. And so if that works for you, then by all means, it's something to check out, or maybe it's something that somebody else can help somebody else out. So
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any thoughts, if you think it could be useful, if you think it wouldn't be useful, whatever you want to share, we'd love to hear from you. So my email is Marisa with one R, one S at getconduit.com. And yeah, certainly, as I mentioned before, truly the best part of my day is when I get to talk to customers or potential customers, or even people who don't want to use this ever, but are in the field. I love it. So just reach out and I'd love to have a conversation. Thank you.
So this is a really good question here. I don't know the answer to that, but if you ask my friend HVAC Time, he has a chiller academy, and he will have that question for you. He specializes in chillers. I have a general overview of chillers. He specializes in working those every day. So it's HVAC Time. He's on every social media, and we'll get him on the show and talk to him about what he's doing about chiller education. But he will definitely have an answer for you on that. And if he doesn't know, he will find out for you. So I really appreciate everybody watching and asking questions, being interested. Marissa, thank you so much for coming on the show, spending your evening talking to us HVAC people about these other options. And really, thank you for this app, but thank you for the honesty too. Like saying, say, hey, we don't do that. There's other apps to do that, or other programs do that. I greatly appreciate that. And here we have one more question here.
Yep.
Who can get the app? What's required?
Yeah, anybody can get it. So we primarily sell it to residential HVAC contractors. We have a couple of energy auditors who use it as well. But if you're interested in getting the app, you don't need to be a contractor. I think probably only contractors or energy auditors would have use for it. You certainly can reach out if you think there's another use that you want to use it for. I would recommend going to our website, so www.getconduit.com, and you can schedule a demo right there. And yeah, in terms of your question, Robert, it is an alternative to RightSoft for the manual J functionality.
And I have, there's all kinds of options. RightSoft has been around for a very long time. It is very, it's. I prefer the user interface of this. So I think that they could use some updating, but that's part of like as we go with time, right? We change, we modify. But yes, it's an ACCA approved, just like RightSoft is approved for sure. And here's a really cool thing: if you think of business opportunities, there's a lot of companies that just don't do heat load calculations. And so you could actually get in the energy auditing, and this is a step that can help with that. Or you could even be the person in your area that does heat load calculations. That's literally what you do. You go through, do the heat load calculation, do the system selection size for the homeowners or for companies, and say, hey, here's what you're going to need. And that's an actual job opportunity. Or you can implement it into your company, or you can be a specialist in just that. So it's just lots and lots and lots of possibilities. Um, and there's your email again. Gosh, now you guys are asking lots of questions. Do you have to have Wi-Fi on the tablet? That's a great question.
This is a great question. So yes, right now you do. I will say that in the next 2 months, we're coming out with a release that we call it our offline light mode. So you can scan offline. If you don't have Wi-Fi, we know a lot of people are working in places where some homes you go to are going to have it. You're going to have cell reception. It's great. And then some homes you're not. So we are going to release something probably sooner than 2 months. It's actually just in the testing phase, but it enables you to scan entirely offline. And then when you come back online, you can upload those scans into a new job and finish off the heat load calculation there. So it's definitely something we've heard a lot of feedback about, that, 90% of the homes you go to, great connection, but then 10%, maybe you don't have it. And we still want that 10% of homes for Conduit to be useful in those homes.
And so if you're gonna be doing this, I suggest also looking at a guy named Dr. Allison Bells with the Energy Vanguard. He writes a lot of really, really good articles. He helps you look at the building as a whole, and it's not just a piece of equipment, it's the house as a system. So I'd highly recommend reading anything from him if you're looking at doing that, because it will really open your mind to a whole new level.
Yeah, actually, everyone on our team who joins Conduit we order Allison's, Dr. Bales's book for them. So I think we might be like the highest purchaser of books from Dr. Bales's website. But we've ordered like 25 copies of his textbook and we send it to every teammate. And we have assigned reading that people have to go through to become familiar with the space. So it's a great, yeah, I totally agree, Michael. His book is the jam. It's fantastic.
I have the book. It's on my bookshelf in the house because I don't have my books out here because of the humidity. But it is a great book.
Yeah.
House needs to breathe, or does it? So
Or
it's a super great book.
Yeah. And Charlie, I saw your question here. The demo is online, so it's just a virtual call with our team. I highly recommend doing a demo. And it's quick half an hour call with somebody on our team. They can show you the software, answer your specific questions, talk through your use case and how might this fit into your business. And you can decide, does this make sense for you or does this not make sense for you?
It's a great question, Robert. It's best to use the iPad Pro to be able to get all of the information and data, how it's designed to work. I don't even know if you could use an iPhone, but it's just best to have the right. If you're going to invest in something like this, the cost of the iPad Pro is it's not that much more, and there's a lot more stuff you can do on this as well. So if you add Measure Quick in or using either the digital stuff, it also helps communicate with that homeowner better. So I would definitely recommend using the iPad Pro because I was going to be like, just going to get a new phone for the wife and I'll use her phone, and I am really, really, really glad that I went this way because it really does make a difference.
Yeah.
And yes, this is the name of Dr. Allison's book. Does a House Need to Breathe? It's super good book. I can't recommend that enough. You guys had some really great questions, and if you have any more, be sure to reach out to Marisa, and she'll answer anything else you guys have. Like I say, I don't know everything that's about that. I've only been using it recently. I've been seeing it all over. I've been excited to finally use it, and I'm super excited to have the opportunity to be able to play with this and show it off. And maybe it's going to be great for you guys, maybe not. But Marisa, thank you again for coming on and sharing this information. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for your time. Great to meet everybody. And Ty, thank you so much for the honor to be here tonight. See you
Hey,
later.
never stop learning.
Yes. Bye.